All right, Baruch Hashem, welcome to letter number 10 of 30 letters in 30 days. That means we're a third of the way through our preparation, getting ready for Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. So we're learning, and we're also giving tzedakah. Here, I have my Koil Chabad Pushka app open. This is now our little custom. There you go. Fun. And we'll put the link below in the YouTube description, also the PDF in the YouTube description. Also, do yourself a favor and subscribe and turn on alerts to the SoulWords YouTube channel, and that way you will just get alerts every time we have a new share. You won't have to wonder. I mean, we have been going live every night at 9 p.m., and that's what we intend to do until Yud Aleph Nisan. I should say every night with the exception of Friday night because it's Shabbos, and then we do a double letter Thursday night. Get ready. Tomorrow night, God willing, we'll do a double letter, Lechem Mishnah. Okay, tonight's letter, let's jump in without further ado. Baruch Hashem Zayin Tammuz Tovshin Yud Beis, 7th of Tammuz, 1952. This is an early letter. This is in Chelik Vav, in volume 6 of Igros. And this is written to, there's many titles here, but it's written to Yitzchak Schneerson. Yitzchak Schneerson is a relative of the Rebbe, distant relative, from a rabbinic family. Originally from Ukraine, and then he moved to France, I believe, after World War I. And he's most associated with France and his work, his communal activism in France. He was originally a rabbi. In Ukraine, he was a rabbi. But in France, he's more associated with communal activism and with industry. He was, I suppose he had a bit of money, and he also raised money, and he was involved in sort of public, you'll see what the kinds of things that he was involved in, but specifically after World War II, after the Holocaust, he was involved in archiving or documenting and keeping an archive of the Holocaust. And that's really what the letter is about. Shalom uvracha, greetings and blessings. Kibalti michtave Chav Gimel L'Chodesh Mei Im HaMitzraf Me'elav Afki Be'ichur Zman K'tzas. I received your letter from the 23rd of May, although it was somewhat delayed, and its enclosures, although it was somewhat delayed. V'zeichani Masha Amar Li Kvei Meir V'chami Admor Zeichat Tzaddik V'Kodesh L'Vracha L'Chayil Ma'abad Nishmos Begin Zemiremim Zichus Yagen Elenu Be'inyan Hatzenter Sha'asa. I remember what my father-in-law, the Rebbe, said to me about your center and the benefit that could come from it. What is the center? It's called the CDJC in English. The center, I suppose the original name is in French, but I'm not going to attempt to do that. It's called the Center of Contemporary Jewish Documentation, and it was founded by this Yitzchak Schneerson and run by him. And as mentioned earlier, it was the work that he was involved in was archiving and documenting the history of the Holocaust. And for very practical purposes, much of this was used not just by historians, but also in the prosecution of war crimes. So that's the background there, and that's what the Rebbe is referring to. And the Rebbe says, I remember my father-in-law mentioning this to me, that it would be of benefit. V'shtatev gamkein b'nidvasei apratis le'tachlazu, and that my father-in-law personally donated toward this cause. So apparently it's this relative of the Rebbe, this Rebbe Yitzchak Schneerson, was asking the Rebbe for financial support for the center. So the Rebbe says, look, my father-in-law told me already that it's a good thing. My father-in-law already donated to you. B'meila, so automatically, consequentially. Ein tzorech l'haskamasi. You don't need my haskama. You don't need my approbation. Meaning to say, if my father-in-law already said it was a good thing, then that's all you need. So I will follow in the king's ways, meaning the Rebbe, meaning the Rebbe's Rebbe, the Rebbe's referring to his Rebbe, his father-in-law. Gam ani ba'avos yishacheloi al masha osa b'hanal. Congratulations, I'll give you an attaboy, yasher koyach, that you're doing this work. Val yedei amtzos lishkasenu. Yikabel gamkin hishtatfusi lepules hatzenter b'schum shel 15,000 franc, and through the account of our office, I'm sending you my participation of 15,000 francs. Okay, so that's the beginning of the letter. My father-in-law said that this was a good cause. He gave money toward it. I'm also going to allocate some money to it. I don't know what 15,000 francs would be in 1950. What year was that? 1952. But anyone's welcome to Google it and post in the comments what that would be the equivalent of today. Now, here's where it gets really, to me, gets fascinating. B'masha kaisa b'mechtave be'inyan hakomas matzevas zikorein kever von unbekannten jiddischen Martyrer. Okay. Regarding what you wrote, that you want to erect a monument or memorial as a grave to the unknown Jewish martyrs, Be'ir Paris, in the city of Paris. Okay, so this apparently is something now different than the center. The center itself, as mentioned, was dealing in documentation and archives. But then there was a separate thing, which was a memorial monument to the unknown martyrs. Okay. And by the way, it does exist. It was built. So that's just a point of historical fact. Watch what the Rebbe says about this. So first of all, forgive me. Who? Because I don't agree with you. My opinion is not the same as yours. I can just imagine as Elu HaGedeshim shenergu al Kiddush Hashem. I'm imagining the martyrs who actually were killed for being Jews. Tekuvosam al inyan hakomas matzeva lezichram be'emtze ir Paris va'yidei aguda shebereisha oimdim chasidim av chasidim d'umas ha'elam ma hoyu heim oimrim al svara kazu. I'm imagining the martyrs. What would they say if they could comment on the fact that some type of memorial will be built, and the Rebbe says by non-Jews? Apparently, the idea was to have non-Jews participate in the monument. How would they feel about that? Like, the Rebbe doesn't elaborate on it, but it's almost like, would that gesture be meaningful to them? Like, really? That's what, I mean, would that be significant? Is that what they would want? I think is the way that I would translate it in vernacular English. You're telling me that that's the people that the monument is supposedly for. That's what they want. They want a monument. They want some commemoration in the middle of Paris. Okay. You see, it's a touchy subject here because this is something, obviously, people feel very strongly about. There's a lot of emotions here. And it's interesting. The Rebbe gave money toward the main cause, but then when it's like the extra thing about the memorial, the Rebbe's like, no, I can't get involved. Ubefrat Asher ato yeshna meis va'alofim meravovis mar. Now this is so poetic. Okay. Martirer chayim, living martyrs, especially when today there are right now hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of living martyrs. Okay, so first of all, the Rebbe says, I don't want to get involved in the memorial because I don't think that that's what the people who the memorial is for, the people who are actually killed, I don't think they would appreciate it. But then, second of all, and maybe not second of all, but more importantly, there are living martyrs. It's such a powerful expression. What does that mean? The Rebbe spells it out. V'yaduim, and they're known. We know who they are. The memorial is for the unknown martyrs. But here, the living martyrs are known. We can find them. Like, they you can go contact these people. They're living right there in Paris and in many other communities. First of all, they need a physical loaf of bread. They're a piece of bread. They're starving. Okay, they're impoverished. We're talking about right after the war, so these people are impoverished. And an even greater number of them may not be starving materially, but they're starving spiritually. They're starving spiritually, meaning they are lacking basic Jewish education. So the Rebbe is saying like this: you want to take money and spend it on a memorial to Jews who were killed in the Holocaust. But that same money could be spent on helping Jews who are alive right now, and who you know who they are, or you could find them, and you can help them not only materially but spiritually. V'asiba ha'ikra she'ein mimalim ra'avoinom bazeh hu cheser ha'mitzvayim. Now, the main reason why their hunger has not, their spiritual and material hunger has not been satiated is simply for lack of funds. I mean, that's the main reason. Just we don't have the resources. So therefore, if you're able to obtain a certain amount of money, immediately the question arises. It begs the question: should you take that money and spend it on putting up a monument in a city square in Paris? So that somebody walking by should know how many millions of Jews were killed al Kiddush Hashem as martyrs. It's a very interesting thing that I was saying here. Like, is that really what the money should go to? That somebody will walk by and they'll know how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust? That's the important thing? Or alternatively, you could use that same money to enliven people who are literally starving and thirsty, or who are spiritually starving and thirsting. So which one should you do? Which one is better? The answer to this question to me is without a doubt. It's not even up for debate. It's like such an obvious answer. What do you do with the money? You spend it on the people who are living now and who need it now. I'm not here to give commentary, and I don't want to editorialize, and I'm going to try to refrain from adding too much of my own perspective here. But, I mean, I think this is indicative of the Rebbe's overall approach after the Holocaust. Like, what should be the response? What is the priority? What really urgently needs to be done? And you really can see how various different factions within leadership sort of took two different paths. And the Rebbe's approach clearly is the one that says we need to help the Jews who are here now. And it's interesting because the Rebbe says to Yitzchok Schneerson regarding the Center of Documentation and the archives, it's a good cause. My father-in-law said it's a good cause. I'm giving you money for the cause. So it's not like the Rebbe is saying, let's just forget about the Holocaust and move on and it doesn't matter. Clearly it matters, but it matters in a context. It matters in a context. And as far as memorializing it and making it something that's on the forefront of public consciousness, that's a much lower priority than feeding hungry people and giving them a basic Jewish education. So it's a very interesting approach. Okay. Emes sheyesh me'ein amasla. Now, true, there is an excuse or a rationalization that you could give for this svara, for this, for the argument that, no, we really should make such a monument. That Rebbe mentioned, I think it's in the name of the Tzemach Tzedek, that amasla, which is the Talmudic term for an excuse, is emes loy. It's not true. It's a rationalization. Okay, that's what it really is. So the Rebbe is saying you could give a rationalization to argue that we should make such a memorial. Why? Because from a fundraising perspective, the Rebbe doesn't say this. I added the word from a fundraising perspective, but it's clear from the context as we read on, that feeding people has already become, it calls it a davar ragul u'maisim b'chol yom. It's like people are used to it. It doesn't have any real flash. Not everyone's going to allocate funds for it. Meaning, again, from a fundraising perspective. In contrast, if you put up a monument that many Jews, prominent Jews, he says Gedolim Yisrael, as well as many prominent non-Jews, they're going to know about it. So then people will more willingly give money. Oh, it's going to be a well-known thing. It's going to be seen by so many people. So the Rebbe says, I get where you're coming from. You could argue, look, if I'm going to ask people for money to feed the hungry or to give basic Jewish education, people aren't going to give money. But if I say we're putting up this monument and everyone's going to see it, then they'll get excited. They'll give. Okay. Yeah, I hear that. If you wanted to make an argument, that would be the argument. And notwithstanding all that, kosher lahachlit ulahaskim lahashkia alofim delorim be'evan u'ba'ofer be'pine be'paris. This is very, very strong poetic language and strong, almost harsh language. It's very difficult to make the decision and to agree that we should sink money, thousands of dollars, into Evan and offer, into stones and earth in some corner in Paris, kasher, when at the same time, alofim uravavis misrael be'eretz HaKodesh tibane v'sikoinen v'gam chutz la'aretz tzoyekim le'ezra dechufa. When at the very same time, you have tens of thousands and tens of thousands of Jews, both in Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land, as well as in the diaspora, who are crying out for urgent help. So I just can't see the justification. The Rebbe is not saying it's a bad thing. It's just it's not a priority. And it's like I'm saying, I'm trying to be careful not to add my commentary, but I believe it's indicative of an approach in general. What is the response after the Holocaust? What is the priority? What is the emphasis? The emphasis has to be on the living. The emphasis has to be on rebuilding. The emphasis has to be on moving forward and on meeting both the material needs and spiritual needs of those who are here with us now. Okay. And again, I want to emphasize that Rebbe told him that the Center for Documentation is a good thing and that he'll give money toward it. All right. I want to repeat my request for your forgiveness. Al masha kasavti la'el, what I wrote above, shaloi kedaitehu, that I don't agree. I don't agree. V'tikvasi chazaka shaloi yakpid al zeh. It's my strong hope that you'll not be, how should we say, makpid. You won't you won't bear a grudge about this. Bivracha v'chaved lai v'lezugai l'chol b'nei beisai shiachyu share bisari, with a blessing, an honor to you and to your wife and to all of your children. May they be well. Share bisari, my relatives, because Yitzchak Schneerson was related to the Rebbe. And that is the letter. Again, a fascinating letter. Really, even all these years later, I think it's still extremely relevant in terms of the way that we think about the priorities, not just for allocation of funds, but our energy, our time, our consciousness, our messaging. Like, what is it that we want to, how do we want to represent ourselves to each other and to the world? Like, what is the main agenda here? Is it to commemorate suffering, or is it to facilitate growth and life and building? The Rebbe says it's not even a question. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night for Thursday night double portion, double helping of Igros. All right.